Hoo-wee, man. Oh boy, David Pagnotta has come out here with the heat. It's a very, very hot afternoon here in Vancouver, and we had ourselves some news that I thought was worthy to make a video about. It's a very simple tweet, it's only a few words, but this tweet has, what is the number? 2,000 something likes. It's got a whole bunch of retweets and replies, etc. This is what Pagnotta says on Twitter. I'm hearing the Chicago Blackhawks have been engaged in trade discussions with teams about Patrick Kane. The Dallas Stars are among the teams most recently interested. Now, we made a video about Patrick Kane earlier last week, something like that, talking about what the odds makers in Vegas were saying about his trade status and the likelihood that he actually gets moved. There was a special parlay going on. Is that really what it's called? A parlay? I don't think that's the right word to use because I don't really know anything about betting, but you had the opportunity to bet on whichever team Patrick Kane would end up with should he actually get moved. According to that source in Vegas, we had ourselves the New York Rangers, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Oilers, I believe, that were the most likely candidates to actually receiving Kane in a trade. However, the Dallas Stars, I don't believe they actually were on that list, but we do have ourselves a brand new link between Patrick Kane as well as the only NHL team in Texas. This is a really interesting conversation that got both sides, Chicago fans and Dallas fans, super excited as to what the future could hold. Mostly because, as everybody knows, Patrick Kane is still a very valuable, very talented, very skilled, and very elite NHL player, playing for a Chicago Blackhawks team that, as we had noted in a video a few days ago from the captain Jonathan Toews, is going through a pretty rough time right now. Kane and Toews have been the face of the Chicago Blackhawks for the better part of a decade and a bit, but with the direction this team is going down, where you trade away guys like Doc and DeBrincat, you let go of players like Strome and Kubalik, and you bring on Max Domi and Andreas Athanasiou to try to replace these players, you're ending up looking at a roster that has a lot of flaws, and that really is just kind of going through that rebuild, hey, we'll go for Mishkov, Bedard type of mode. And it's not fun for players that are on the older side of things like Toews and Kane. Toews' interview from the other day talked about how, hey, because we're going through a pretty rough time right now, it really makes you appreciate when things were actually good, when we were winning Stanley Cups and when we were actually a powerhouse. Unfortunately, Patrick Kane, Toews said he couldn't speak for Kane, but it's pretty evident that Kane might even feel the same way. All the rumors, though, talking about Patrick Kane have been more prevalent than that of Jonathan Toews, mostly because Kane is not the captain of the team. Also, Kane is a lot better than Jonathan Toews is right now, too. Plus the fact that Patrick Kane in the last season's worth of play actually was still one of the top point producers. He had himself, 92 points in 78 games played, and he's making $10.5 million a season for one more year. This could be the ultimate rental for any team going out there wanting to add just an absolutely elite forward to their squad. And if Dallas is the team, hey, be my guest, baby. I was already kind of on the Dallas train, talking about guys like Jason Robertson, talking about guys like Jake Oettinger and Miro Heiskanen. By the way, all these players drafted in this 2017 NHL Entry Draft. What an exemplary draft for that team. But you take a look at some of the other players that have been thrown into the Dallas Stars discourse the past few weeks over here. We made a video the other day, actually, talking about Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin and how we had ownership within the Dallas Stars organization go out there and call these guys out again. Say that they need to be better. Say that there's a lot more to give from your top two stars. Sure, the best players and the best line in your team, Roope Hintz, Joe Pavelski, and Jason Robertson, they're great, but you need more out of the players that are being paid to do more, especially in Seguin and Benn. And so, if you wanted to go out there and say, okay, in order to really spark up what is a pretty lackluster duo compared to what we thought they should be able to do and the amount of money they're getting as well, maybe the Alex Radulov replacement is right here in Patrick Kane. You get yourselves a top six of Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski, as well as a second line of Benn, Seguin, and Kane. Goodness gracious, that sounds fantastic. That would have absolutely tore up the league in 2014, 2015, 2016, when all these guys were top 5 point scorers in the entire National Hockey League. Now, I get it, it's 2022, and Patrick Kane is still okay. You have Seguin and Benn who have kind of fallen off over the past few years, too, but Could you imagine just how good that top 6 is going to be? I know Ben and Sagan have been sort of lackluster and they have been falling off, but could you imagine how reinvigorating their overall style and their engagement in the sport of hockey would be if they were playing with Patrick Kane? Now, whether or not a return is something that we wanted to talk about here, you know what, screw it. Let's talk about whatever a potential return could look like. And I'm going to start this conversation off by going over to the Dallas Stars draft pick history. There you go. Let's Google that and go over to HockeyDB, because I do like the prospects the Dallas Stars have. They got some very good ones in the system for sure. Leon Bichelle was taken 18th overall this season. You have Christian Cairo as well, who was a second-round Dallas Stars draft pick. Last year, Wyatt Johnston, very good player in the OHL. Logan Stankoven, very good player in the WHL as well. Ayrton Martino from the Omaha Lancers in the USHL. I'm a very big fan of him as well. Not to mention Maverick Bourque and Antonio Stranges from 2020. This team just has some pretty good, very high-ceiling prospects. And if you tried the package, let's say a Logan Stankoven and another first-round pick and maybe somebody else for Patrick Kane, I think that's actually a really, really good trade for the Chicago Blackhawks, because at the end of the day, with Patrick Kane being as good as he is, and with the uncertainty, I'm going to go out there and say, that exists with him and his contract, you don't really know if you're going to be able to keep Kane and Taves long term, because honestly, these players and the situation they're in, where the team has been so evidently going down this rebuild path, I would not be too surprised if you have a situation where, let's say, Kane sticks around for a year, he plays 22, 23 in Chicago, and then he's a free agent in next year's offseason, and he just says, sayonara, I don't want to play with you guys anymore. Like, it's just not fun being a Blackhawk at this point in time. I get it, there are probably a few comments out there where he's like, yeah, I'd love to stick around in Chicago long term, it's my home, etc., but like, could you realistically see Kane and Taves, who are in their early 30s, be willing to go through a 5-year rebuild as highlighted by Davidson? Because that's what this team is going to do. That's what they've been manifesting for themselves with all the crazy moves they've been making. So for Patrick Kane, might as well try to get as much as you can out of this player and this asset before he leaves for free, right? Why not trade him away for a package of a few very good Dallas Stars prospects? Maybe try to get that Wyatt Johnson. Maybe try to get, I don't know, maybe a Logan Stankoven and/or an Antonio Strong, just because these guys could be very good, high-skilled players at the National Hockey League if everything goes right for their development. I definitely do believe that there's a lot more to get out of Patrick Kane at the NHL level, so if a team like Dallas, who is still trying to force themselves into the playoffs and do some damage while they still have Ben and Sagan, wants to go out there and get this type of player, then hey, be my guest. Do what you want, eh? Talk in the comments, though, all your thoughts about this David Pagnotta tweet, the fourth period going out there saying that Dallas and Kane are linked. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.